In the flustered words of Gary Gygax, the co-creator of D&D, I have yet to see one bit of valid clinical evidence to show that this has been anything more than coincidental with a disturbed child. This is as unscientific as you can get. It's nothing but a witch hunt. It was a dismissive comment, but perhaps Gygax was correct. Maybe the opposition's blend of pop psychology and evangelism was as unscientific as it was a witch hunt. He went on to make the analogy with another game. Who is bankrupted by losing a game of Monopoly, he asked. Nobody is, because the money is make-believe, the property is make-believe, and the bankruptcy is make-believe. Grandmaster Gygax was a man with a firm understanding of the difference between real and imaginary things. It seems a very simple and plausible assertion that events from a game cannot harm you in real life. But would it be enough to create a reason to doubt the accusations leveled at his game? Gygax's defense may not have been overly vigorous, but he did touch on the subject of disturbed children. Dieter Sturm, head of public relations for TSR, would expound further. We see no connection for the fact that right now there are some 3 to 4 million players of the game actively throughout the United States. Right at this particular time, 1985, teenage suicide is epidemic across the country, with some 5,000 kids a year now taking their lives. I think that to say that because that child played Dungeons & Dragons, who is to say that child does not watch television, does not participate in high school sports, or what per se? 3 to 4 million players is an impressive number. If 5,000 teenagers took their own lives and all of them played D&D, which they didn't, that would mean less than 0.15% of D&D players were teenagers who committed suicide around 1985. Bear in mind that's a gross overestimate. While 5,000 suicides a year is nothing to scoff at, it would seem that the immense majority of D&D players in 1985 were quite alive. So evidently, it does a very poor job in making players kill themselves. Sturm also raises the plausible objection that D&D is most likely not the solitary pursuit or influence in a young person's life. According to Sturm, numerous parents said that a child had no problems out of the ordinary. However, after examining reports from classmates, teachers, or friends, they found that the youngsters didn't fit in at school. They often had outside problems and generally problems within the family. In fact, there was a spike in the suicide rate of teenage males between 1970 and 1980. In 1987, the Associated Press reported the results of a Centers for Disease Control study. During the 1970s, the suicide rate went from 13.5 to 20.2 per 100,000 among men aged 15 to 24. Among similarly aged women, it only increased from 4.2 to 4.3 per 100,000. However, by 1984, the suicide rate had apparently stabilized and was once more only 12.5 per 100,000 overall. Experts speculated that the increase may have been due to an increase in family breakups, drug abuse, reduced job and educational opportunities, and the growing access to guns. Further, the CDC said that guns were the most common method of suicide in the 1980s. Slightly less than 50,000 people aged 15 to 24 committed suicide during the entire decade of the 70s. That figure is consistent with Sturm's estimate of about 5,000 per year, but the entire number of suicides for any reason in the 70s is still less than 1.5% of the number of people who were playing D&D by 1985. Again, it seems that the vastly overwhelming majority of D&D players managed to stay alive despite the untold number of deaths their characters may have met at the hands of the game. If the CDC's expert speculation is accurate, family and economic problems in conjunction with an abundance of guns is probably the demon we should fear. Grandmaster Gygax and Sturm the Stalwart fought a fair fight, but they wouldn't do it alone. An unlikely hero of the cause by the name of Tracy Hickman endeavored to salvage the game's reputation. Hickman is a fantasy author, creator of the Ravenloft adventure module for D&D, and a devout Mormon. In his essay, Ethics in Fantasy Part 1, That Evil Game, Hickman makes light of the moral controversy surrounding role-playing games. Movies, television, and music, he explains, can be sleazy or beautiful. A medium of communication isn't bad or good on its own. How we use the medium makes it so. The occult, he argues, is a real religion that draws its power from darkness, but it shouldn't be conflated with D&D. A fantasy game can be designed to teach Christianity. He bears first-hand witness to a conflict between a pious woman from his school district and a school teacher who uses D&D with the gifted students. Poor communication, he reasons, is the only cause for their poor agreement. In 1988, Hickman was making an earnest and good-natured attempt to appease every argument in his essay. He acknowledges the dark forces and reveres the light. He admits role players might abuse D&D, but by the same token, issues the challenge that it has a capacity for higher moral instruction. Certainly a teacher in a school wouldn't play out gruesome satanic sacrifices or horrific sexual fantasies with a group of children. I mean, have we not more faith in our educators? Was Hickman doing the greatest service to both sides of the conflict, or was he merely a half-hearted hero? Time would tell.